Example 1. The shape below is a parabola, and it is the graph of the equation y equals x squared minus 6x plus 8. As we go to look at this graph, there's a couple of characteristics that graphs have. One of them is our x-axis. Our x-axis is the horizontal one. So there's our x-axis right across the bottom, or across the middle. And that x-axis does not have to be in the middle. It is on this one. X values are positive as we go to the right, negative as we go to the left. And then we have our y-axis. It is our vertical axis, so it goes straight up and down. So this is our y-axis. It's positive going up from the x-axis and negative going down from the x-axis. So as we go to look at our graph, our first question says, does this graph have a max or a min value, and what is it? So looking at our graph has that valley shape. Remember that the lowest point of our valley is where our min is. So there is our lowest point. The coordinate there, x is 3, y is 1. That's a negative 1 because we went down 1. So there is our vertex. Now, recall, as we look at the questions, our vertex involves both the axis of symmetry as well as the max or min value. So when we look at our question, when it says max or min, that's telling us we're going to need the vertex. So, our vertex, we just figured out, was 3, negative 1, where this was our axis of symmetry. And this is our max / min value. Now, the vertex will tell you what the value is. You need to look at the graph to decide whether it's a max or a min. And very rarely will we ask you what is the max or what is the min. Sometimes we do. Often you will see it like this, where you need to determine whether it's a max or a min, and then say what it is. So in this case, because it was the valley shape, we have a min, and it is equal to our negative 1. Our next question says, what is the y-intercept? The y-intercept of the graph is where it crosses the y-axis. So y-intercept crosses the y-axis. So going up and looking at our graph, here is our y-axis. There is our curve. So that would make this point right here, where the two cross, our y-intercept. And that y-intercept value is at 8. So when we go to write this, we can write it as y-intercept equals 8, or the other way we can write it is as a point, as an ordered pair. And remember, with our points, x is first, y is second. So the y value would be 8. And if we look at our graph, if we come down on this, our x value on the y-axis is 0. So that would give us a value of 0 here. Next question. What is the x-intercept, or intercepts of the graph? Well, x-intercept is where the graph crosses the x-axis. So taking a look at our graph, as we go up and look at our graph, we notice that here is our x-axis. Our graph goes down and above the x-axis. It crosses right here at 2 and also here at 4. The y value at those two spots is 0 because we haven't gone up and we haven't gone down. So when we go to write those x-intercepts, we could go in x-intercept is equal to 2 and 4, or we can write it as an ordered pair where we have 2, 0 and 4, 0. We cannot write 2 comma 0 in brackets because that's going to be a scenario where the x value is a 2 and a y value is 4. So remember, we cannot do that. Remember, this is x, then y, x, then y. If we look at this, this is x, then y. This is saying x is 2, y is 4. That is not correct. So you need to have those zeros in for the y. No shortcutting on it. Our next question says, what is the axis of symmetry from the graph? Well, that axis of symmetry was the x-axis from the vertex, x value from the vertex. So there's the x value from our vertex. So we're looking at the axis of symmetry, which is an x equals equation. We will have x equals 3 as our axis of symmetry. Now, the last question we have is, what is the domain and range of the graph? Before we can go and look at what the domain and the range are for the graph, we need to know what domain and range are. So, domain is the x values that work for the graph equation or situation. Domain goes with our x. Range is the y values that work for the graph equation or situation. Okay, so range goes with our y values. So what values work for x? What values work for y? So if we take a look at our graph, looking at our x values, as this graph goes, it looks like it stops here, but if I extended the graph would keep moving this direction. And similarly on this side, it would keep moving that way. So it's still moving upwards, it's still moving sideways. On this one, it's still going up, and it's still going sideways. So at minus 10, I might have a point that's way up here somewhere, but it would still be on our graph. So we're looking at, for this, all of our negative values work. Similarly on this side, keeps going up. At 10, I might have a point way up here, but it would still be on our graph. So all of our positive values work. So all negatives and all positives would be all real numbers. So every number that exists works. So as I go to look at this, I am looking at my domain being x is all real numbers. Now if I go and look at my range, we've already discussed that the graph keeps going up, 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 and doesn't stop in the upwards direction, but in the downwards, there's nothing down here. So recall, we're not going to, that thing in here is going to work for us. So we're going to need to say that the graph starts here, and it's going up. Now we do have a few things in there. This is where our inequality signs are going to come into effect. So just a reminder on our inequalities. This is our greater than. This is our greater than or equal. This is our less than. This is our less than or equal. Okay. And as we look at these and try to decide which way it goes, the open part of that is always going to go towards the bigger number. So you can think of it as Pac-Man. who wants to eat the bigger number, or the crocodile, who again is looking at eating the bigger one. So Pac-Man goes for the bigger, Crocodile Mouth is going to be pointing at our bigger scenario. So looking at this, these numbers up here are bigger than our -1. So as we go to look at our range, we have range is Y and -1. The Y's were bigger, so we're going to have our mouth pointing towards the bigger one, which was our Y.